Hello and welcome back to the painted charge with what is part 2 of my Tamai demonstration game video. In the last video we looked at research, books and other material you can use that were being used to do this project. So this week we're moving on to this is the figures that I've done so far for the game. Doesn't look a lot there, but combined with the rules that I'm using, the numbers of troops, you're not talking millions of troops. That's always been a bit of a foible with colonial wargaming, that someone has to have a huge native army as opposed to the person who's collecting the British troops. What you're seeing on the table there is the Bedger tribesmen that I've done. This is the first unit of those that I've done, and I've also done a unit of Nile tribesmen. These could be used as Kordofans as well, and various some of the other tribes that took part in the Sudan campaign. We'll go into detail with those in a little bit, and as you can see here, we've got the British troops as well. These figures are by Perry Miniatures, and the Mardists come in a box of 40 figures, and I'm just going to show you the box. So if you haven't seen it, that's the box that I'm using for the Mardists, and this box contains enough figures to do 40 figures, which is quite good, and there's lots of variations you can do. You can see by the poses that we've got. So we're just going to focus, come in a bit closer to take a closer look at them. Okay, so as you can see, there's quite a variety of figure poses there. Some are armed with large stabbing spears, some are armed with their razor sharp swords that they really were kept sharp. And if you look at some of the photographs that are in some of the books I was showing you the other day, some of the British troops had photographs taken of the wounds that they took from these weapons, and they were lethal. There are riflemen would have been rifles would have been used as well. In these rules, the rifles are based upon a separate base, and I will go into the organisation briefly for these troops. So, using the rules. A good dusting, which I pointed out, showed you in the last video by David Bickley. You get it goes into details of the organisation of the Mardist troops. So basically, the Mardist division would be made up of, would be called a flag, and that would be commanded by a Khalifa. So within that, each flag, it would have been divided into 4 rubs. And then from each one of those rubs would contain up to 4 units of troops. So and that's where the beauty of these rules come in, that you can put together quite a good sized army, as it's designed for playing on a relatively small table, probably an 8-foot by 7-foot table or 8-foot by 6-foot table. So what we've got here is a band of Bedger tribesmen. Now a band could be made up of 3 bases of troops like this in one band. So you've got 4 bands in a rub. So as you can see, the units, you can have up to 12 to 18 stands would make up a band. With the same goes for the Nile tribesmen. So if you're fighting a fictitious battle, these two could be fighting together, and you could have either another band of those tribesmen, or you could have another band of these. So it is mix and match for the rules. There's an example scenario, so you will need 6 lots of these blocks to actually have to play the sample game scenario that's included in the rules. A quick word on the painting. The figures were all painted with Vallejo paints. Basically, for these chaps, They're slightly darker skin than their Arab counterparts. So I've made a point of doing that, so there is a difference in skin colour. So these were based undercoated in black, primed in black, and then I painted over the skin parts of the figure in dark chocolate, which is a Vallejo paint. And then for a wash to bring out the details, I've used Army Painter Warrior Skin. They do some brilliant paints which you can also use to vary the skin colours. There's Sand Golem from the Army Painter and Warrior Skin. And I just briefly mentioned all this stuff I bought myself. It's not being given to me sent to me by a company for gratis. So yeah, those washes there, you can combine those washes and you can get some really good effects on the skin tones with these guys. Also the shields, I painted all the shields on one great big piece of card and washed and dry brushed those to give them a nice look. Same goes for the guys at the back. They're a little bit easier to do. The Riverine tribesmen were denied the use of shields by the Mahdi. Here was an order sent out that they were not to be using shields. But, it's a bit weird. I don't know why. They didn't have. They did have some riflemen. I mean, the Mahdi's forces at this point had. I think they got up to about 3,000 or 4,000 Remington rifles, which they'd taken from the Egyptians. So yeah, you can have stands with riflemen on, but you're limited to how many you can have. So yeah, again, the Nile tribesmen, these are wearing probably more clothing that we associate with the Sudan. They've got jibbers on. The patches though and decoration on them are quite small because the patches were actually meant to patch rips and tears in their uniform. It was only later on the jibbers that they started putting great big huge red, yellow patches, and some of the designs on the jibbers were really ornate, but it was meant to be a sign of the piety of the warriors who were wearing the actual clothing. And if you see in the Beja tribesmen here, there's two guys who have got these jibbers on. Eventually a lot of these chaps would have shaved their heads and adopted the skull caps and turbans that you see that the Arab tribesmen are wearing. So we'll move on to the British unit that I have got done. For the Tamai game, there are two squares, 1st Brigade and 2nd Brigade, and each one of those squares will be made up of 4 units of 4 bases. The base sizes for this game, everything including the warriors, all the foot figures, are mounted on 60 by 40 MDF 2mm bases. You can put as many or as little natives on their bases. I've gone for 4 because I think it gives that look of them a wild charge instead of them all being densely packed onto the bases. And plus as well, it makes it more interesting, and it's a bit cheaper on the figures as well. So you'll see from the 40 you get in the box, you can make up quite a few good units. Going back to these guys, these are Royal Marine Light Infantry. They would have fought in wearing the new blue linen suits. These figures are plastic boxed from the plastic box of British Afghan troops, as they've got the putties on. Not sure whether they had those or not, more than likely not, but this is a good way of putting your British troops together. If you want to do Highlanders, which I have got, you will have to buy the metal figures to do the Gordon Highlanders and Black Watch, which I already have some of. So basing wise, it's sand, birdcage sand and bits of grit and bits of stone mixed together with PVA applied to the bases. I also add a bit of paint to the PVA mix and then let it dry for 24 hours and then come in and do the dry brushing. The bases have been finished off. Actually, on the bases, before you apply the PVA, I've actually used some very thin cork mats. You can buy cork coasters off Amazon in a pack of about 5 or 6. I literally tear bits of that up, place them on the bases, and it elevates some of the figures, and it creates a bit of an undulating scene on the bases. Right, so that's close to where I want to finish off on this episode. That's what I've done so far. The next video I'll do a video on the scenery that I've built so far. I've not built the tables yet, but that will come later on in the day. So I'm going to leave it there. Thank you for your time if you watched this far, and if you're interested, if there's any questions you'd like to ask, please do so in the comments box, and I'll try and get back to you on it and answer any questions you've got. And but yes, the next thing we'll do on this part 3 will be on the scenery that I've done so far. Okay, so thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. Bye.